Good morning, Service Alliance community. How y'all doing today? Doug is in the truck. I got him muted because I keep hearing myself. It's a rough day. It is a rough day on the morning grind. Doug is locked out of his computer. It's going to be a long one. How you doing, brother?
Is it no coincidence that Ginny wants to start a Facebook thread of gratitude for each day? Like, I'm going to have a hard time coming up with my 3 for today, right?
That happens. That does happen.
It's the true test. It's the true test to make your Monday the best Monday it can possibly be, right?
Yeah, if it wasn't for surprises, it'd be boring, right?
There's no flattering angle for me in the car holding the phone up like this. So please don't judge me, people. Happy Monday. Wait. You didn't let it roll. You didn't let it rip. Did you do the big good morning?
It just kept ringing in my
Was I
ears. I couldn't
distracted?
do it. I couldn't do it. It just kept feedbacking in my
Okay.
ears.
All right. Well, let's just get right into it. Let me open us in some prayer this morning and let's let it rip. Lord God, these little things don't mean much, but sometimes they can get under our skin. Sometimes they can build up and create a bigger havoc in our lives. But if we always look towards you and be focused on what is great and how you provide for us in our lives, it will help us stay grateful for what we have. When we look left and we look right, we look in the paper. What's the paper? We don't read the paper. When we look online and we see on our friends and social media pages people struggling with bigger things like cancer and heart attacks and Alzheimer's, and we just, Lord, help us not be grateful because someone else has it worse, but help us be grateful for everything that we have, that we take for granted, right down to working thumbs. We give it all to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. So today we are talking law of the compass. So if you go straight to Dr. John Maxwell, uh, it talks about vision and the direction, and it's our job as leaders to kind of guide that. What we're talking about today is does that compass needle ever move, and whose responsibility is it to move that compass needle? So we'll be digging into that topic today. Should be fun. Should be interesting. So the thought behind it is that the compass needle is the vision of the company. It is the direction that the company is heading. And I want to start off in typical Chicago fashion. I know Doug loves this. What if you don't feel like there's what if you feel like Johnny Depp, where that compass needle is just spinning around, spinning around, spinning around? Whose job is that to kind of correct that? You have any thoughts on that, Doug?
Well, it certainly starts from the top down, right? Of course, we know that. We say that all the time. But what happens when someone at the top is struggling and spinning, right? That's the real question you have.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would think for me, taking it in parts, separating it in sections, and trying to identify who we are, what we strive to be in different areas. So, like in a business, we could look at our employees, our customers, our community, and just start there and try to begin to figure out what do we stand for, what's our goals in those 3 areas. And I think people can get encouraged to do it, but it almost feels like filing taxes, right? That's sitting down and thinking about those things. So let me ask you something, Zach. What's your way of clearing your head from the daily distractions and responsibilities to like get into that mode of, vision casting?
Hmm. Yeah, it comes in a couple different waves. Getting out on the bike, getting out running, that helps me. Like it's quiet. But even sometimes then, I have the headphones on and I'm listening to a book or something like that. And the real trick is to get to where there's no noise. It's very hard to do. It's very hard for people to get to the point where there's no distractions, there's no noise, there's no nothing. Because that's where the creation happens. That's where that vision casting can truly happen. You have to be okay with some silence, um, to really get the creative juices flowing. It's a difficult habit for sure.
I like the word silence because the reality is even if someone's not calling your phone
Mhm.
or coming up to you and asking you questions or telling you need to help because we've got a big situation here, even if those things aren't happening, you're still not silent, you're still not quiet, because you still have that, whether you're an organized person or not, you still have that checklist in your head that you're mulling over almost subconsciously. Like, okay, before Friday, I've got to get this done, or else I'm going to miss a deadline. It's going to cost me money. Those things, that noise is in your head too. And so silence is pretty challenging, I think, for many of us.
Yeah, and it's important to try and practice that, right? So if whether you're one man, uh 20 guys like Doug has rocking and rolling over there between all the office staff and everything, or anything in between, it doesn't matter. You do have to find that intentional time at least seriously at the bare minimum once a year. Lock yourself in a cat. I don't care, like something. You have to get away from the noise of it. Sit in your room for 5 minutes. My office is pretty quiet, and so I can block out the light. I have a little chair in here, and I can, if I'm intentional about it and I put it on my calendar, because that's the trick, is being intentional about it. I can sit and I can be quiet and I can then begin to write the stuff down if I take that intentional 10 or 15 minutes and really give it at least 15 minutes, right? Because you need a little bit of time to turn the static down, and then you can really start thinking through that. But in my experience, if you're in a company and it feels like the needle is spinning like crazy, it's because someone hasn't taken the time to sit down and figure out which direction that needle needs to go. It's true in our own lives too.
I mean, to part of it is that everyone has their own, like my technicians, they have their own sort of compass that they need to
Mhm.
focus and live by, and maybe they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And I don't limit it to a technician, any employee. If you've been given a groundwork of process and structure and things you're supposed to focus on, and you're not doing those, and if it's not like you're a bad guy or a bad person. You're not doing them because you have problems at home, because you're overwhelmed, because no one's checking in with you to say, how are you doing? Because no one is rescuing you to say, hey, come over here. Let's get back to the basics. Why don't we, for the next day or two, focus just on this and try to slow that compass around. But I believe that you could potentially hang on in a company that is not purposely driven in one direction, that you yourself can manage the parts that you handle, and that you're responsible for. And that could bring inspiration to the people around you, above you and below you. You know,
Yeah, and I'm not saying you have to leave. I'm just saying if you ever notice that you're in a company that's doing that. That's what's going on.
I know you're from Chicago. I certainly didn't allude. I wasn't thinking you were. I'm just saying it's one of those multiple choice solutions. When you feel like as an employee, you're going crazy and there's chaos around you, first start with yourself and say, what are the basic things that I need to do every day to make my day great? Well, I keep going to bed really late. I keep getting up late. I keep hitting the road late. I get to my first call. I already know I'm going to be late to my third call. And then you start cutting corners and you're rushed. Start in your own heart and in your own mind. And I'll tell you something, it can really slow the needle as a whole company if everybody was focusing on their part and what they're supposed to do, you know.
It's true. Um, so would you agree that we need to, and I think just the way that you phrase that, you do, the compass has to start with us. And so sometimes if there's conflict within a company or conflict within ourselves, whether it's in a organization or a church or a family dynamic, whatever, would you agree that we have to figure out where our compass is supposed to be pointing first, or is that kind of out of like what where do you think that comes in?
Well, I think, I mean, who's in charge of our chaos, right? Whether whether it is at church or the Moose Lodge that you're a part of, the Veterans Club. Who's in charge of it? I think for sure it takes a lot of grace from people and assuming the best and coming alongside to try to help each other. That because I think sometimes it's easier to help others than to help ourselves. I don't know about you on that one, Zach, but can you imagine that collaboration of thinking of others first instead of yourself? And I think that to me is at the core of everything. I know we try to model. By the way, let me just get this out there. So every once in a while, we get on like these topics. Action Appliance is is a great company, and we're
Mm-hmm.
doing really great things. But we're not like amazing, like we come on, Zach, and we share where we've learned from our mistakes. We share our current successes. We share and celebrate humbly, hopefully, how we've not looked back on certain things. But by no means do we. We're no John Maxwell. What can he even brag? I don't know. So I just want you to know that Action Appliance is far from Disney World by any stretch of the imagination. Bring Paul Hartland on and let him know. But I do think that at the core of it, what I just said is really important. Finding people on the team with you that really care about them doing the best that they can be for themselves. From there, inspiration and the momentum really takes off from there. Um, but by any standard, if you have any bar set high for Zach and I, please just lower it because you got us all wrong here.
Yeah, just keep lowering that bar for me. Just keep going down. No, so I'm always talking from a perspective of lessons learned, things that I've been through. So sometimes I ask these questions just to see if there's other perspectives out there, or see in the comments if there's other perspectives on situations that I've already been through, done that. Got the t-shirt, and I also have the bruises and the scars to prove it. But it I think starting internally first, like figuring out where our compass is, then helps set that direction, because you can't really I use this illustration all the time, and I'm gonna do it again. You have to put your oxygen mask on before you can help anyone else. So if you don't know where your compass is heading, if you don't know where your direction, the vision for your life, if you haven't set those goals personally, you're just going to get swept up in the storm, always. And so sometimes you're the chaos that comes into a company, right? So sometimes you bring that mess with you, and it can just make static for everyone else. So I always look internally first.
How can we diagnose our...
So I always look internally first.
I'm sorry to cut you off, trying to mute and everything. I mean, but how can we even be a great technician diagnosing if we don't have the right tools, if we're not clear-headed and thinking things through? What?
He said, thank goodness I didn't set the bar high for the Bears last night. See, here's the real thing. If you are in the Chicago area, you just know they're going to lose and you don't even care. And if you think they're ever going to win, like, what delusion are you under?
Wow.
Anyway.
And you guys pay a lot of money for those tickets to go there and feel that way when you're at the game?
I only go if someone gives them to me for free. You couldn't. It's hard to pay me to go to one of those games. It's hard to pay me to go to one of those games.
Man, that's funny.
Anyway.
That's funny.
I digress.
With his comments, doesn't he?
He's got great comments.
He's got great comments.
Yeah.
They sidetrack us though.
They do.
So how do we diagnose? How do we diagnose that chaos?
Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, how can you, as a team player on your softball team or whatever, get to the core of the problem if your first instinct is to blame other people for why something didn't work out?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll tell you, right down to the microscopic level, you should always be asking yourself, was I right or wrong? Not asking yourself, was I right or wrong, but what could I have done differently to avoid this? Or what could I have done differently to be more successful in this situation? And I think that that's a great place for all of us to be as a team if we can do that. You know,
one of the topics I want to bring in a couple weeks, and you brought up a great point there, is the questions. Like, so we need to start with questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that if you, getting back to the other question that came to that question from the first question, which is how do you stop the needle from spinning? You start to ask yourself questions, right? You know, who are we and who do we want to be? And why do we do this thing every day? And why, where do we want to head with this business, with our customers in the next 1 year and 5 years, that type of thing. So, and I'm in the midst of working that out. I've been more reactionary as a general manager in the 12 to 14 years that I've been at than proactive. It's only been the last year or two. So again, I humbly say I'm mostly sharing what I screwed up on or took a really long time to figure out. But we're still a work in progress as far as always focusing down the road at the same time as in the moment.
Yeah. And I mean, company and chaos, right? Like, so it has to start internal. And so before you can even begin to question who your company is, you really need to understand who you are and where you're heading. And so from my own experience from running Gordon's, I was the chaos because I didn't personally know what direction, what was important. I had no idea where my compass was pointing. How can I set the compass of a company if I personally don't know which direction that I'm heading? How can I lead others down that path if I don't even know where personally I'm heading? And there's times in life where the compass gets shaken up. It starts spinning again, and you start going, what the heck just where did that come from? What is going on? And you have to really begin to ask some more questions and diagnose deeper into that. Were these core things that I set up, were they really like rock solid? Were they really a good foundation to build this vision casting for my own life on? You have to ask those questions. And if shaking the compass up starts spinning the world into chaos, you really got to question what you built that on, right?
I mean, I got to believe sometimes when you get to the core and you find out that you've really been off track, and you're driving the big sailing ship and you're behind the wheel and you realize you're way off and you change course, your team is going to think that your needle might be in chaos, but you know it's not. You know you're heading in the right direction now. It is going to bring stress, and hard work is going to be needed from your team to get back on course. But that is different than the chaos that you're talking about of, again, reactionary, like putting off and neglecting something that your business needs to address, and finally it blows up on you, whatever it is. That's chaos. But you knew all along it was coming, but you didn't have the strength or the will, or you didn't see it. That would be the worst and the scariest part. And that was probably me for the first 8 years. Is what's in front of me, I can handle it. But that's a very short-sighted view.
So right along with what Doug is saying here, questions are going to help you diagnose what the real issue is. Is it that you didn't have those core foundations and now your compass is spinning around? Or is it your compass is pointing true north because you finally figured it out, you built it on a solid foundation, and now these external factors, the storms, are actually coming in. And so there's chaos swirling around on the outside of your organization, your life, whatever. Um, the only way to know that is to begin to question things, ask more questions always.
I don't know if that's a particular personality style or if it's something that every type of person can develop. But you can say something pretty important and vital, and then just see everybody go, I got it. Yes, yes, yes. But you really don't know. But can you imagine if you can form a habit of always following up with something important with a couple questions that you can then see where they respond, that you didn't deliver that message perfectly, well enough, or that it wasn't clear enough, and you can then clarify. But you also get that buy-in when they're saying things back to you, answering those questions. So I don't know, Zach. I mean, it's not my strong suit, but do you think that all these different personalities can develop that habit or that technique of asking questions of your customers, of your employees? I wouldn't mess with the spouse thing. I think my wife would know it's some sort of technique and like break my legs. But besides my wife, I think it's a very effective approach.
I think questions are the best thing we can ask. I mean, honestly, like practicing asking questions is so important, and you do it, and I hear it in my own self. I've done it with you a couple times just in this session, and I caught it after I had asked the question. You ask a question but not a leading question, right? And so I just did it again. That right at the end of what I said, that's a leading question. That is a confirming question. And so when you do that, you don't leave people the space to truly answer you. The more you do it, the more you actually practice questioning, the more that you become conscious of asking good questions, the better at asking questions you'll be, and the better at understanding where in the heck you are in your journey, right? The more questions you ask, the better questions you ask, the faster you get to that end piece, whatever that is for you.
Well, I'm certainly at times, I wouldn't say burnt out, but there's times when I'm in the defense mode and I'm just coasting. Maybe the narrative of your bike riding, which will always be a narrative to me and not a real thing, because I think it's dangerous and dumb and just not a great way, because you can watch a Netflix show about biking, which is more interesting. But anyway, there's probably times where you have to coast and pace your mind and pace your body. Your body can actually get affected through stress and through work, not lifting boulders, but moving people can tire you out. And sometimes you do have to stop asking questions and just pace yourself. And I think all that, see, I'm speculating because I'm in the midst of it now, um, trying to get that gauge for myself of when I need to pace myself a little bit and step back. So, work in progress, right?
Yeah, and I think
I think
as you begin
as you
to
begin
ask
to
these
ask these
questions
questions,
and as you begin to learn where you are on the spectrum, you will learn when to coast. You will learn to have those moments of silence, to have those times to retreat and to get away. And then it begins to make the direction a lot easier, right? And so part of the purpose of the law of the compass and part of the purpose of understanding where that needle is spinning is, as leaders especially, our job is to set the guidance for those that are coming behind us. We've been through some of these storms. We've seen some of this stuff happen. And so our job is to drop those buoys that say, "Hey, don't go that direction. You're gonna run into some rocks, and it is gonna delay you for a really long time. And I'm telling you, you don't want to go down that path. Let me just put a warning buoy." But at the end of the day, ultimately, it's that person coming behind you's choice to run into those rocks or not. You've put the warning buoy down, and that's part of the law of the compass, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah, and I was thinking as well. Yeah, people might not like us if they've never tried this. They go back to their team of people and they start asking questions, and then all of a sudden their team thinks that it's a full collaboration where everybody gets an equal vote. And now you're like, what the heck is going on? I liked it when I just told them what to do, and if they didn't like it, they could go work somewhere else. There is what was the one of the first books I read this year is the Why book from Simon Sinek.
Simon Sinek.
Simon Sinek.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely need to refine your message. You want to explain your where and your why really well, and or as well as you can, and then from there ask your team questions for clarification and potentially collaboration. But be careful. Like I said, you don't want the whole team to think that you're giving up control here, because you're not.
What's actually more likely to happen, Doug, is you're going to start asking questions and people are going to be like, "Wait, what? Why? Did I do something wrong? They'll just start like going, what is going on here?" It's not going to be, you're not going to have to worry about them going, wanting to tell you what to do. They're going to look at you and go, "What? Hold on a second. Am I getting fired or like what?" Why is this guy asking me so many questions?
Hold on, Zach, because quickly, I'm telling you, human nature, people adapt fast when they want to, and you might have that initial response, but
For like
I've been asking
day.
questions and giving the why. That's why my voice is raspy, and I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. Okay, I've always probably over explained my why, which really can confuse people. So casting a vision and a message, and these are the steps we're going to take in the next week or month or quarter. When you can organize that, you're going to create less chaos. But I promise you, they'll go away from looking over their shoulder like, you're talking to me, to like going, wait a minute, you're not doing what I told you I'm supposed. So that pendulum will swing, Zach. I know you being from Chicago and rarely submitting control is definitely, I'm the opposite of you. I'm your yang to your yin.
It's not natural for people to actually truly be asked questions. And so initially there is going to be like this, who are you and what did you do with Doug? Right? Like it is not natural for people to be asked questions normally. So it it will be a practice. It will be a habit to get into. And we lost Doug. Well, it's been one of those days. There he is.
That was Rob
back.
Jones. Rob Jones hacked my phone, and now the sound is probably not even working properly. I'm after you, Rob.
Well, I can hear you still.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. No, so it's just getting used to it. And once you do, then that pendulum does swing. It does go the other direction.
Agreed.
You better be ready before that pendulum swings, though. You better know where that compass is pointing. And that was my point. Know where you're heading as a company and why you're heading in that direction.
Hey, guys, look, that's my IT person who's got, I'm going to blame him for my laptop being locked out in StreamYard. Yeah, he just waved. All right. I got to go because I have to ask him a lot of questions right now why my Monday's got to be like this. So
thanks for coming on. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.